All right, we are now live. Take it away, Nandini.
Hello, everybody. I'm delighted to welcome you to this, to our CETI's inaugural Enchanted Technology Summer Festivals on wearables, costumes, and e-textiles. I am Nandini. I'm the founder, along with many, many other people, including Helen, of CETI, a creative and emergent technology institute. And as part of this festival, we have a series of workshops, talks, projects, lab, just playing and experimenting with wearables. Most of it will be streamed, and we'll have videos later, including this amazing speaker series, and I will talk a little more about it. If you want to learn more about CETI, we are join our newsletter on our website, ceti.institute. Follow us on social media, which is also ceti.institute. For this particular talk, add comments to the chat, but also join our Discord. We're going to continue this conversation after for a couple of days. But before I introduce everybody, I wanted to mention one little thing, which is this whole series that we put together in this amazing chaotic way as a sort of celebration of almost quite surely soon back from the pandemic is very generously supported by the Oregon Community Foundation and by Portland State University, which has given us space and resources for this. So thank you all very much. I will be lurking in the background for this talk, listening very, very eagerly to what Ajay, who's this amazing tinker, artist, maker, has to say. I saw him at a conference earlier this year and decided that we had to have him somehow involved with CETI in some way, and I'm glad it's soon, thanks to the amazing Helen Lee, who has been sort of the energy and inspiration behind this whole series and festival. She has done some amazing workshops, and you should find that on the CETI stream. And we'll put a link to the CETI stream on there, although those of you on there now should probably have it. But Helen is an amazing artist and plays with technology, music, making just magical, impossible things. And we'll now introduce and carry out the rest of the chat. So thank you both for joining this. I'm so excited to hear what you have to talk about.
Thank you for that introduction, Nandini. I'm going to remove you and keep Jay all to myself now. Thanks very much. I'll see you at the end. Bye. So it is my absolute pleasure to introduce one of my favorite makers, Odd J. Now, for those of you who don't know Odd J, you are missing out. You should run to Twitter and Instagram and go and follow him. He makes some of the most interesting DIY tech out there, particularly if you're interested in robotics, or if you like the cyberpunk aesthetic, because Jay is king of cyberpunk robotics. I first came to know of Jay through Twitter, and since then I've just really enjoyed watching his creativity and technological skills grow and grow over the years. Some of you may have recognized him from a recent Make magazine cover. I know. Look at you. Who was on the cover of Make magazine? It was you. It was so fantastic to see that. And yeah, so it's he's a maker, a tinkerer, all self-taught from the LA area, very active in the LA hacker community. And he's done some really, really amazing things over the past couple of years, which I'm sure he's going to tell us about. Before I hand over the virtual mic to Odd J, just a little bit of housekeeping here. So if you want to ask any questions to Odd J, you can pop them in the chat there. I'll be able to see and highlight comments. So for example, here's one from Timon. Hello, Timon. Hi. He's come to join us. He says, he also says, Jay is also the most stylish hacker, which I'm choosing not to be offended by, Timon. But it's true. You are a very stylish hacker. So if you do have any questions or comments for OddJ during the course of this live stream, just pop them in the comments. I'll be able to highlight them and share them at the end. You can also direct message either me on Twitter or like at me on Twitter, and I will ask him all of those questions at the end. And please do. It's difficult for us to keep up the energy when we're just like faced with a blank screen, right? So any kind of like engagement makes us feel like we're not just shouting into the void. So we do appreciate that. Thank you.
Shout into the void.
Shouting into the void. And with that, on that note, shouting into the void, I'm gonna hand over to the extremely talented OddJ. Jay, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. I guess my legal name is Jorvon Moss. My friends call me Jay. The internet knows me as OddJ.
Yes, true.
Like Helen gracefully said, I'm a self-taught tinker. I went to art school. I got an art degree. I have a legal ability to draw in charcoal, if that's ever important, if it ever comes into a thing. I have that skill. But after that, I realized I didn't really do that. So I kind of started teaching myself technology and things. And my style of learning is very trial and error. So I'm very curious. So I will try almost anything to see if it works. And most of the time it's pretty positive. If not, there's a fire. So, fire insurance is always good to have. Just, extra little bonus there. Make sure you have that if you get into technology. But I focus mostly on wearables. I just made these new goggles, which have little stuff in them now.
Let me spotlight you. I'm going to spotlight you so you can actually show those off. Look at that.
Yeah, they have a new system. I'm still trying to get to work correctly, but they have little moving micro lenses on them for I can do zooming work when I'm working on little small stuff, because I work with a lot of small gadgetries recently. So, and people have been asking for upgrades of these goggles for a while now. So I decided to just start working on them like 3 days ago because I have no life. But that's one of the details I like work on. Of course, you have my friend here. This is Aussie. This is Aussie V10. There's 9 other versions of him throughout my entire life, but V10 is my personal favorite. He is the newest. He is the most comfy. He has facial recognition AI. He doesn't take any pictures or anything like that, so your privacy is okay. I've only really designed him to look at people. That way he can start conversations and interact, because having a robot look around randomly is fun and all, but eventually people are like, what's it doing? So having one that actually looks at people and kind of like gets their attention, because, you can see it looking at you. But yeah, that's what he does.
Fantastic. Yeah. Really great. Let me know when you want me to start your slides, and I'll put them on for you as well.
Oh yeah, sure.
Should we do that? Should we go into that? All right. Let me pop that in, and I'm going to remove myself.
All right. So these are my slides. Hi, like I said before, Ajay. I am 29 years immortal. INTJ, Gemini. That's a thing that you care about. Self-taught tinker. I have my Instagram, my Twitter, and my TikTok. Yes, I have a TikTok. Believe me, it's not as bad as people usually seem it to be. It's kind of cringy, kind of not. It's fun. So one thing I wanted to talk about is my personal process when it comes to building things and dealing with failure. So I have a saying from a movie a while back, from Disney movie, Meet the Robinsons, keep moving forward. And that whole concept is pretty much, when you fail, don't focus on the failure, focus on what worked. So for example, if I say I wanted to make an RC car that, lights up, and then I test it and the lights work, but the RC car doesn't work, I say keep moving forward, and I figure out what didn't work. But the LEDs work, and I count that as a win. Most people, when they work on projects like that, if something doesn't work instantly, they go into a depression or they feel bad about themselves. And it's really hard to keep a positive mental state of, hey, this still worked. Let's keep going. We can figure this out. So in my slides here, I'm going to show you a few examples of my failures, some old projects, my process, and I hope to give you a little insight of my mindset. So next slide. Or do I have to do that? I think I have to do that, don't I? Okay. All right. So this is one of my biggest failures. This is Dexter. Dexter is a robot monkey that I had built a while ago. And it was a very hard build. It was all 3D printed. I was trying to do so much with this robot. I wanted it to do like everything. I wanted it to be like have 21 servos and could look around and crawl around me and stuff like that. I had all these ideas. And on the first day I brought it out somewhere with me, I was going to LA Comic-Con. I tried to take it with me. It broke in half. Like instantly the body just snapped. And as you can see in my picture, because my friend got this amazing photo of my reaction, that's exactly how I felt. It was so disappointing. So I like took it home, I put it on my desk, took a picture of it all, and I was just like, it's a mess. It's 100% just a mess. Just not going well for me. I admit originally I was a bit bummed about it for obvious reasons, but I didn't really let it get to me too much. So I got back to work and eventually kind of came out right. This is an example of a more recent project. I went to Disneyland recently. I'm not sure if you guys have ever been to Disneyland. It's a really fun thing. And I wanted to build myself a small robot because I didn't want to take Aussie with me because he's pretty big, pretty noticeable, and I didn't want Disney's security guard to be like, hey, that's not a Disney product. You can't bring that in here. So I wanted to go very incognito. So I worked on a really small robot for like 2 days, just 2 straight days of just working on this small robot. And I think I have a video. Yeah. It came out pretty well. It was a simple robot, simple mechanisms. It had a little claw, and I even gave it a Loki little crown because it's cute. Like, there's so many variants now. I was like, I'll just have fun with it. And it came off. It was with magnets and everything. It was super cool. I was really proud of this. So after that, I was like, cool, I'm gonna take it with me. See if I can get to the next slide here. Went with my best friend. She looks amazing. Did another quick test outside of the park to make sure everything worked. It worked pretty well. It was cute. Kids were walking by being like, it's a Loki robot. It was fun. It was a fun time. But literally right after this, it broke. Of course, I'm at Disneyland, so I didn't take any real pictures of like it breaking. But I literally broke. I stuffed it in my bag, and I enjoyed the rest of my Disney day because it's Disneyland. There's no time for frowns here. I took it home, and currently this is what it looks like on my desk. It's literally just a pile of parts. But I know this will have been wrong. Personal take, just because of course, I paid attention to this. The neck wasn't sturdy enough. Of course, the Loki helmet was cool, but I used a lot of hot glue with it, which LA gets like 80-degree weather. So if you have a lot of hot glue projects, keep that in mind that if you live in a very hot, humid area, your hot glue will fail you. So make a mental note of that. But I'm not getting it down. I'm going to continue working on it. I plan to fix it up most likely this weekend and get it ready for another small adventure. So these are some of my friends who also make wearable robots. It's Alex Glow and my friend Angela. We've all made wearable robots at one point or another. We all know the struggle that comes with wearing a wearable robot and building a robot in general. It's a lot of work, stress, and if you ever get a chance to look at their work, please do. It's amazing. They've made some really fun designs and constructions and stuff. It's great. I always tell people if you get a chance to like experiment on your own or see other people or hopefully inspire others to join our weird robotic family, as I call it, because it's really great to just have like a whole bunch of fun personalized robots. So this is part of my design process. I do a lot of sketching because art degree. This was a project that I wanted a while ago. I wanted a spider robot that fit in my hair. Why my hair? Don't know. Why a spider robot? Because I have a thing for spider robots. Anyway, so first thing I always do is sketch. I get like a basic idea of what I kind of want. And I kind of like play with ideas to see how I wanted to get to design. And this is the first test after I got done with the sketching. Of course, it didn't come out exactly the way I wanted it to, but it did functionally work. It hung out in my hair, it blinked, it moved. It scared some people because it is a very strange design, but it was very like in my hair. And I love that. Like it stuck there perfectly. I named this robot Paradoxy just because that's a cool name. And plus it's like a paradox and time travel. I'm a big fan of that type of stuff. This is another one that I built a while ago that I called Widget, which is a dragon robot. This one failed epically. I have not gone back to this project just because it was a very big project. The bottom left corner is the first design. I was trying to go for a kid-friendly design, and it was not met well. So I decided to go for a more bigger, Game of Thrones dragon design, and it was more popular. It breathed smoke and stuff. And then I tried it again for a steampunk version because I love steampunk stuff. It's still one of my favorite genres of sci-fi. And in a lot of steampunk stuff, they do super fire breathing metal dragons. So I tried to do that and make it a wearable, but it was way too big. It had a whole bunch of issues. Don't worry, I know you see the smoke from the picture here, but the smoke was intentional. Inside of it, it's a hacked vape pen, and the hacked vape pen makes the robot look like it's covered in smoke because I was trying to go for a very fantasy robotic feel. This is more sketches of my good friend Dexter. Dexter is one of my oldest robots. I haven't gone back to work on this one because time, I guess, actually. I actually don't have a good excuse. But I did a lot of sketching with him. I sat around, like I said, these are the things from my sketchbook, how I was thinking about them. I made notes of how things work, things didn't work, because of course from this picture, this is how I was thinking of it when I was working on it. But it, of course, did not turn out that way because the imagination and physics are two different things that sometimes don't like to get along. Of course, I failed with Dexter a million times. The last Dexter I built was Dexter V5, which is the picture here. On the left is just all his parts. I failed Dexter so many times. It got to a point where I started making him in specific parts. That way I can easily disassemble him and reassemble him. And the reason I designed him that way is, of course, he kept breaking, constantly. One thing will be working and then instantly break. Or he's all 3D printed because 3D printing is my go-to material. So I would take him out with me to an event or a con or something like that, and then he'll just hook from my back, or someone will bump into him too hard, and then his tail would break, or a foot will fall off, or something like that would happen. So one of the ways I dealt with that problem and decided to fix that problem is by printing him in multiple parts. So if something broke, I can easily just go home, reprint the part, and just reattach it. And to this day, Dexter is still one of my favorite robots. The kids and little humans enjoy him the best. Of course, he has different versions. The one on the right here is Mini Dex. It has a camera in its eye that just takes pictures. Really fun build. And then, of course, the one on the left-hand side is the most recent Dexter, which I still have. It still sits on my desk, but it's kind of too big to be a wearable anymore. So I really plan to only take him with me to events where I can set him on a table and let people walk around and look at him or something like that. This is another project that I wanted to go into for wearables. After making these goggles from the Make magazine, I decided to go to a different aesthetic with Cyberpunk. So I wanted to make another Cyberpunk Odd J visor, which I actually nicknamed Odd Vision because oddity, weird. I can stay on brand. Anyway, the first one came out pretty okay, but I had so many issues. As you can see on the right-hand side, the LEDs kept having errors. So they kept messing up. They wouldn't have the one single dot that I programmed in it. It will break into two. It was super heavy compared to the other one, compared to any of my other works on my face. I think I have a video here. Yeah, this is a failed video really, but you can see how it kind of worked. But then if you pay attention, you can see some of the LEDs stop working suddenly or mess up. And like I said before, it's super big. It was really, really heavy on my face. It kind of brought everything forward. So neck work was very, very strange and it kept messing up. So of course I didn't give up. That was the first version. I took what I learned from this version. I wrote everything down in my sketchbook and said, all right, let's try it again. And I worked on a second version, which did work. And then I just put the two together because it made a pretty cool look. You gotta admit, this is super cyberpunky type of look that I was trying to go for. So it worked. But the fact that I didn't give up, and instead of just destroying the first version, I just kept the first version, learned from it, and made a second version that actually is smaller. It fit better on my face. It was more comfortable. And I have to admit, I kind of like it a little bit better than the first one, just because that first one really was super heavy. Also, if you make a whole bunch of wearables, I recommend working out just a little bit, going to the gym and just working out those parts that are used a lot. Because I go to the gym, not for me, it's because I wear stuff like this constantly. All right, moving on. Give me a second, I do apologize for the last slide. The slide is blank. Is that weird? Oh, I guess that's the last slide. I do apologize, that was longer. But yeah, so, see, that was close. Luckily, I have fast reaction time.
Jay, that was amazing. So many really incredible creations. And I see many of them behind you as well that we could take.
Yes. Behind me is pretty much my craziness.
I love it. I'm absolutely burning with questions as well.
Okay.
But you're done with your presentation, right? I didn't want to jump in while you're...
that was pretty much my presentation.
Do you have any other stuff that you want to tell people before I jump in with Q&As? Or
I can give a
things on your desk, but it's up to you. It's up to you.
Oh yeah. What I can do, just for fun stuff, if anyone wants to see, I can actually kind of show you.
I'll remove myself again.
I can kind of show you my little like workstation area, of course. Move my camera a bit. But this is pretty much what's on my desk right now. This is JMax. He will be done soon. He also runs on the same program that I'm using for Aussie, except he has more features involved in them that will eventually be done. I bought a Spider-Man toy from Disneyland because Disney, and I want to take it apart and see what I can learn from it. But what I would like to show you guys is where my other robots are that I keep discussing. Sorry. Don't get sick. But this is my other workstation where I put all my other robot parts and all my other still functioning robots. As you can see up there in the corner, that's still Dexter. He still works. Everything up there and up here are all functioning robots. I just keep them together with my printers. That way we don't have any real, issues or anything like that. Or if I actually, need to go to an event, I can take them down and turn them on. But yeah, keep everything. Sorry, I fixed the camera.
That's super cool. Thanks for showing us around. I've actually got some immediate follow-up questions from showing us around. I'd love to see, talk me through your tools that you're using there. So I saw 2 3D printers over there, if my eyes did not deceive me.
Yeah.
I'd be really interested to know what tools and materials and what your workflow is as well. Tell us more about how you actually create these things.
Okay, cool. Yeah, that's not a problem. I run 3D printing first because that was the skill I mastered. The first thing I always do is I have a sketchbook here, which is a magazine sketchbook. They gave me a few of them. I love them. I sketch everything out first. Before I get to CADing and stuff like that, I just, see if I can get that to clear up it. I sketch stuff out. Just something small. I will use my sketchbook as a journal, as a study guide. Let me find another good page. And I will just kind of draw out ideas and see how it can maybe work. This is actually the first sketch for Aussie V10 when I was trying to figure out how I wanted him to actually work. And originally with this sketch and this design, his head was going to be in the front like it is in the sketch here. But the problem with that is the servo wasn't strong enough to move the head like that. So instead, I ended up designing a whole another structure for him, which makes his head to be upwards instead of forwards, which makes the servo easier for the head to turn using the gear system.
Nice.
So I go from Sketch, then I go from CADing, I go to Fusion 360. That's the one I go to most. I taught myself Fusion. I cut out the parts that I need, I print them out, and then I just start assembling. Then it's kind of like Lego work, but at the same time, it's more like Lego work with trial and error, because I want to say not everything works the first go. Sometimes the designs fit the first go and other times they don't. And depending on my schedule and depending on how long the print takes, depends on how I proceed. A good example is if, let's say his head didn't print right. His head took me about 10 hours just to print. Let's say there's a missing piece or something like that. Instead of having to redo the print, I will just get some filler, fill it up, sand down the head, and just do that for a day compared to waiting another 8 hours to redo a print. And then that's another printer that's being used that I can't use for another part. So there's little ways to fix things and mess with things as well too. Another good example is one of my favorite tools is my Dremel. And the reason is for that is if for some reason I forgot to put a screw in, or if I figure out a screw can fit here better, I just take a Dremel, make a little hole, and then just put a screw in there, and then bam, easy fix. Of course, I go back into the Fusion file and fix that up later, just in case if I have to go back and like, work on it again. But it's one of the best ways to fix that problem.
Super interesting. I've got some questions coming through from the people who are watching on YouTube. I'll start off with the first one that came through during your talks from Jessica Mick, who says, do your friends who also make these robot creatures have social medias that I could follow too? Make plush toys. Very cool. And I'm super intrigued about incorporating technologies into them.
Oh, yeah.
I did share Alex Glow's handle, which is Glowaski. But who else did you mention? I couldn't.
Angela, I can send you the link to her page after the talk. But you can definitely follow them.
Put it in the YouTube comments, perhaps afterwards.
Yes.
In the description, we can put it in the YouTube description afterwards. So yeah, we'll share those. That's great.
Especially if you're using plush toys, I definitely recommend Angela's work for the fact that she uses a lot of soft stuff, and the cool thing about me, Alex, and Angela's approach to our robotics were different. Like I said, I run 3D printing. Alex, her first robot was 3D printed, but after that, she used laser cutting. So she uses like cardboard and stuff for her robot. Angela is a great seamstress.
Angela Sheehan.
Yeah.
Oh, her handle's _Gella, Gella.
Yes.
I just didn't clock that's what you were talking about for a second. I'll post that in the chat.
Some of us know each other by our only.
I know, right? We all know each other. Did you know, Jay, that Helen Lee's not my real name? Did you know that? It's just my internet name. They're just stuck. We all know each other by our internet names.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah. Okay, so I've just posted Angela's Twitter handle in the chat, so you can go and find her. But yeah, she's amazing. Her stuff is perfect.
And she uses a lot of fabric and stuff with her robot. Her robot was done using fabric, some basic electronics, of course, and she also incorporated, I believe, what was it? Clay. The face of the robot is actually clay.
She did. I remember that. That was really cool project.
There's multiple different ways to make whatever you want. You just have to find the way that best fits you as a person compared to like other people. Like what works for me might not work for you.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. I've got another comment here from Alana Rice, who says, I love all of this focus on failure, which I agree with completely, Alana. It is such an important part of prototyping. Can you talk about how failure helps you, and if you think you've developed an embrace of failure that other people don't have?
I'm not sure if other people don't have. I think maybe. I don't know. I don't mind failing.
I think a lot of people are scared of failing.
Yeah, I think maybe. I'm not afraid of failure. I live by the concept, keep moving forward, and failure is a good thing, as long as you learn something from that failure. So for me, I don't count failure as a real failing thing if you learn something from it, even if it's something as small as this doesn't work or this is not working because of this. If you can learn something from it, it's not a failure. And thanks to that, I run into projects and things that constantly I'm running into failure. I've become best friends with failure. Me and failure are cool. We hang out every day at this point. We have tea, we get coffee sometimes in the morning, depending on what's going on. But the mindset you have to kind of remember when you're prototyping and doing stuff like that is like, if you keep moving forward, if you're still trying, you're not failing. And that's one of the biggest things I'm trying to push. And also try to remind people, it's okay for things not to work on your first, second, or third try. Just keep at it. It's going to work eventually. It's just going to take us some time.
Do you have any particular methodology that you use for like investigating your failures?
Oh, yeah.
Are there like an order that you try things in? I know like with my own electronics, when I'm like troubleshooting, like, I don't know, a classroom of things, I'm always like, check the power first, then check this, then check that, like, is there like, do you have a method for approaching failure?
I do, and it always depends on two things. If it's a design failure or electronic failure. So if it's electronic failure, I go from check the power, of course, first, make sure nothing catches on fire, because I've had that problem where I've accidentally plugged in the wrong thing and it just starts smoking. Magic smoke. So be careful of that. So I always do that first, or check the wiring, because I do use a lot of Adafruit's power boosters sometimes, because some of my robots need to be small, and the power booster gives servos the extra jump it needs for them to work correctly. And
wait, rewind. What is this power booster? I don't know this.
Adafruit's power booster. Actually, I can grab one really quickly. The cool thing about all of this, these are all my parts.
I know, I love it. Rolling chairs and component drawers behind you for the win, right?
100%. I use a lot of these. These are Adafruit's. Come on, focus, camera, focus. I know you want to.
It wants to focus. It's refocusing, but it keeps
Yeah.
refocusing on your goggles.
My goggles are too cool.
You can do the beauty blogger trick by putting the other hand behind.
Great idea. I didn't think about that.
The innovation from beauty bloggers. There we are. It's focused a little bit more now.
This is an Adafruit power booster board.
There we go. It got it. It just focused it. There we go.
It's really good because I use it for like giving my stuff an extra boost. Also, it has a USB recharger port, so like you can charge lithium-ion batteries with these, which are great. They also have really nice, like, of course, built-in resistors and safety mechanisms. So like, if I mess up a wiring system, instead of it just like exploding or something like that, it'll just cut everything off, which is so useful for me. Because a lot of times when it comes to my testing thing, if it's not a power issue, it's a wiring issue. So it could be like I accidentally wired, one of the servos to ground instead of power or something else or that. And that will mess up the entire circuit, of course. And I have to go and troubleshoot through that way. If that's not a problem and everything looks like it's supposed to be working, I check the code. And then my code problem solving goes like step by step. So depending on what I want the code to do, I will redo it and kind of go from like a step-by-step procedure of like, all right, like this is using two boards, using the OpenMV, of course, for the actual like facial recognition, but also has a servo controller in here as well. So first thing I would do if I was troubleshooting him, I will open the OpenMV code first and make sure that it can see me and is actually doing the program for that. And then I will go on, if that's working, I'll check the servo board and see if the servo board's working. And then that's kind of a way of like troubleshooting part by part by part by part. That way you can get like a full system and stuff like that. Especially, I often try to push these kind of like ideas and these concepts too. When you have a big project, try not to look at it all in one. Don't look at it like a full project, look at it in pieces. So like you're thinking of
great advice.
Yeah, think of it like you're making something like a light up doll. Okay, you want to light up doll to first like glow with these LEDs first. Focus on these LEDs, then focus on this part, and then focus on that part. And then eventually, when you get them all together, you can wire them all up to work on like one switch. We can turn it all on at once, and then bam! It all seems like it's one thing, but it's actually multiple things working together.
Yeah,
kind of like a human body.
Yeah, it's excellent advice, and I think a lot of people don't realize that, and it does make creating a complex system so much more interesting if you like break it down like it's a jigsaw puzzle, right?
Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah, really, really good advice, and I think a lot of people don't know that.
That's that design. It's a design problem, like a physical design problem, where I have to go through that process. It's a whole another type of like thing of me sketching again and being like, all right, let me try wearing it first. What's uncomfortable? This part's uncomfortable. Why is this part uncomfortable? And now I kind of like sketch it out and like do some measurements and stuff, and then be like, all right, let me just figure that out. And that's.
I just got a comment here from Alana again saying that she just added Power Booster to the carts that she's got going. So that means that you are an electronics influencer.
No, is that how that works?
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. Good job. Yeah. Thank you for that explanation. I've also got a comment from Trevor Flowers saying, thank you for sharing successes and failures. And Trevor's also got a question for you.
Sure.
Which is an interesting one that says, what emotions keep you going with so many complex projects? And this is something that I'd like to learn as well, because you seem to create at a very rapid rate. You're very prolific, and you seem to not be bothered by failures or setbacks. And that takes a certain amount of emotional resiliency. So what is it? Are you motivated by desire to like prove yourself, desire to learn, desire to share? Like just what is it? What emotions? Yeah, what he said basically. What emotions keep you going?
Trauma. I'm kidding. I couldn't help myself.
Yeah.
A little yes, a little no. Okay, so I like I said, I'm all self-taught, but like I grew up in LA. My parents weren't very rich or anything like that. So I was always weird from the get-go. But when it came to electronics and me like falling in love with this type of stuff, it's literally a love. It's a passion. This is all I think about constantly. Like no matter what I'm doing, every day I'm messing with something or building something. And I'm not sure if it's emotional resilience or this burning embers of passion of wanting to continue to exist in the world that I created. If that makes sense. That makes sense?
Makes 100% sense. It's actually great. Like, I feel the same way.
Yeah, like I don't like how things are. Everything looks so normal and boring most of the time. I'm just like, I can make things, I can build things, I can be a cool tinker, I can do it myself. No one else will do it. And I just love the feeling of like the accomplishments and then also getting things to work. Like I honestly didn't think I could get to a point where I am today. It was part of my goals, honestly, but I didn't think I'll start rapidly just posting stuff on the internet. People were like, oh my God, that's cool. But I was doing this before the internet was as popular as it is now. Oh my God, I'm old.
Join the club.
But yeah, I go with a whole bunch of passion type of things. That's what it is for me specifically. But if I were to give advice on how to keep motivated on things, is remember why you started and also have a decent support group. Like that's something I have now thanks to the Make community. But when I was first starting off and I didn't know about the Make community at all, I didn't have that group. So literally I just escaped into my work. So I was learning things. I can escape into a book, or I can escape into a design. I can escape into trying to make this thing work. That was my escape from reality, pretty much. And as I got older, I got better at it. I found people who also made stuff, and now I just do this constantly.
Super good. I mean, there's two questions I immediately want to ask you after that, which was number one, like when you talk about. Like when you talk about getting started in electronics, and when you talk about yourself as self-taught, I wonder what that means to you when you say self-taught. Where is the information that you found to teach yourself this? Was it something that you learned from books, from online lectures? Like, what were the resources when you were first starting out? What were the resources you really relied on to get you to pass that first step? Where did you find?
Like my first step, literally make magazines, like that was a big deal when I first started off, and internet tutorials. Like I said, I kept the idea of what I wanted to do in my head constantly, but when it came to the first steps, I was still clueless. Like I tell people the story constantly, but my first test of electronics happened in my dorm room in college. I bought a pack of servos, and I bought a 6 AA battery pack. And I bought a breadboard, and I was like, okay, cool. This is how you do electronics. Because the first thing I wanted to do was make a servo move. I didn't think how this is supposed to work.
That was your first component, was a servo.
Yeah, I wanted to make a servo move. That was my first thing I wanted to do. I wanted to make a servo move. Simple. Like, I could do this. Yeah. I plugged in the 6-volt AA battery directly into the servo, and the servo just instantly just poofed in smoke. Like, huge. Fire alarm went off. My roommate was angry. It was a whole thing. But that was my first look into it. And honestly, I admit, I was kind of scared a bit because that was my first time playing electronics. And the first thing I do is like make something explode. So it was kind of like, that was scary.
I'm not surprised one bit. I wish I could say I was surprised, but that's very on brand.
Yeah, I kind of jumped the gun there.
A servo and you blew it up.
Yep.
I love it.
Jumped the gun there. I always tell people, at least when I tell them to start, I always say start with LEDs because they're simple. You can use coin cell batteries and I say solder them with a switch. If you can get that first taste of technology, then you can go into bigger projects and then you can integrate. Like a good example is I'm very big on steampunk because I love steampunk growing up. Like it was my first genre I jumped into, and when I was starting my maker journey, I was trying to make steampunk like tech. So like one of my first builds that you could find on the internet was a steampunk bracelet. There's a gear bracelet that moved. The first version of
it was a really good one.
The first version of that was just an RC motor that was just plugged in with some batteries because the analog movement with that was great. And plus, thanks to my love of steampunk, I was able to start looking at how gears move things, and which accidentally put me in physics, which I didn't know was physics. Like it's kind of funny when you're talking to friends and you're like, I'm trying to figure out this gear movement because this, but this is weight and this thing, and they're like, you're doing physics, and I'm like, oh, is this what this is? Okay. So like that started off. So like I always tell people start off with some small basics. Try like making small motors move. Start making small LEDs move, and then when you get to the basics of electricity and basics of like small stuff, then you can take the next step. Try using a microcontroller. Try telling it to turn on and off. Try things like that, and then go from there and figure out your own path. Because I do this a lot. A lot of people come to me and ask me, how do I start? How do I get to like where I am now? But the problem is my journey is, I don't think my journey is easily teachable because my journey was self-taught. There's no class for jumping into just this.
I think the community is really important to get involved. You know, there's lots of like resources there. But yeah, I think you're right. You know, that if you're self-taught, everybody has their own self-taught path, right? That's not necessarily, and really what you need is not a list of instructions. What you really need is to just go and do it for yourself.
Yeah, 100%. Just jump in it. Yeah. I recommend just be very careful with high voltage electricity. Try something small. Or I love kits. Like I'm a big fan of like the I know DigiKey has kits and like another SparkFun has a lot of kits. I recommend people do kits definitely because it's a safe way of jumping into it without going too crazy. And also, if it's fun for you, try integrating it on projects. Like making an LED blink, you can be like, okay, this LED can blink. All right, let's add a switch to it, and then make a game out of it. Like have a game night with your friends and be like, hey, I have this quick build of electronics here. Every time this person does this thing, take a drink or whatever. Make a game. You know, have fun with it. Go crazy.
Exactly. Having fun with it. Okay, so another question.
Sure.
I'm rewinding back to your talk when you insouciantly mentioned your smoking dragon, and you were like, "Oh yeah," and I just hacked a vape to make it smoke. How exactly do you hack a vape?
Oh, okay. This is a cool thing.
How did you do? Tell me more.
This is a cool thing about the internet, and this is one thing I love about the Make community and stuff like that. I learned that trick from being into steampunk, and a lot of steampunk stuff has smoke come out of it, even though I wasn't really trying to make a small motor like that. So I went on the internet and I was looking up like cosplay ways to make smoke. And of course, the first way I found was like ice, like the dry ice method. But like, I'm not going to carry around dry ice in a robot. That's just a bad idea. So one of the things I found during my research of the internet, that's why the internet's the best resource when it comes to learning things, is I found cosplayers using hacked vape pens to do it. And it's a simple hack, but it's a good one. And I recommend, you can find people online who does it. Kamu Cosplay, there's a whole tutorial about it, which is really good.
Spell that? K-A-M-U?
K-A-U-M-I, I believe. Kamu Cosplay.
Okay. Well, we'll put the links in the notes at the end.
Yeah.
While you tell everybody about it.
She has a cool cosplay tutorial about it, and it's a fun trick. Something I like about our MIC community and stuff like that is that we're known usually for being hackers, like tinkerers, that type of thing. So I kind of like this procedure because you get to think outside of the box, which most engineers and like other people like that will not think about. So you find little cool ways to get the things working the way you want.
Is it Kamui? K-A-M-U-I?
Yes.
All right, I'll just post that in the chat now. I find
great cosplayer, has really cool books, and goes through electronics that they use for their builds and stuff like that. I use a lot of
the DIY fog machine.
Yep.
Yeah, really cool. I just love the fact that we get to do this now, right? You know, like 20 years ago, we would not have had access to this kind of information. But I just think like for people who have the initiative to be self-taught, like it's a golden age right now. Like we could have been as curious as we'd like, but you know, like 30 years ago, we still wouldn't have had access to information, right?
Yeah, the funny thing about it, like I love this new world. Can I say new world? Because technically it's a present day.
You can say new.
Okay. I love the new world because of all the resources. Like if I didn't have the internet and all these like books and stuff that I can like grab, I would not have learned this. Like the only books I own right now, like I have in my possession on my bookshelf, are maker books, science books, and art books. That's it. If there are those three things, I don't buy it. And most of my like science and maker books are something I'm like looking at to learn a new skill, or I use it for reference if I forget something. Because sad to say, the human brain is nice, but I'm not a master of everything. I can't just like, 7 months ago, I remember doing this build. This can still work for this. No, I go back to reference constantly because I'm not going to remember how to do it on top of my head.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, Jay, I've written books and I still have to look up what I wrote in them constantly. I'm like, I literally have no idea how to do this. I'll look it up and I'm like, yeah.
Oh yeah, that's how I do. Yeah,
Like, you'd think that information would stick in your head, but the truth is, it doesn't.
yeah.
Like,
Another fun prototyping tip, especially something I've learned because I use a lot of servos, and I admit I buy cheap servos off of Amazon sometimes. They're small, micro, and they work.
Yeah.
You might want to build testers for yourself. Like I have a Adafruit Cricket, which is one
love
of
that word. Yes.
I use that. I have one that just has the basic program for moving servos on it, and I use it to test my servos.
Mm.
So like it's nice to have these type of like small little like toys of other boards that you can like reference to or use just to test to make sure certain things work. Because that's another thing that bringing it back to the conversation though of testing if it doesn't work. Sometimes you can just have bad hardware.
True. It's true, especially with servos, because they can be extremely unreliable and like calibrated all different, you know.
They're finicky. They're very interesting.
Yeah.
I call them children. They're interesting children, which I've learned to make them work on different projects. And like I've learned different ways of like hacking them to make them work sometimes or making them do a different thing. Definitely another like piece of advice from the oddity. Definitely look into how these things work. A good example is micro servos. If you look at the diagram, they have a little stopper on them that stops them from like moving all the way. That way it can do a quick 0 to 180 degrees. Fun hack. If you take it apart, you can actually mess up the pyometer by just spinning it all the way. And if you clip the little gear stopper off and then put everything back together, continuous rotation servo, just like that.
What a hack. I didn't know that. That's really cool. So you can you just basically take a little screwdriver to it, open it up, remove the stop, and mess with it. And do you program that? So when you've done that hack, do you program it in the same way that you would a continuous rotation servo?
Yeah. See, the difference between a continuous rotation and servo, as far as I know, of course, someone more professional out there would know better than me. Continuous rotation servos still work off of 0 180 axis. The only difference is like degrees. So once it gets to like 0 to 90 degrees, it'll go right. But as soon as it goes from like 90 to 180, it'll turn left.
Interesting.
So like it'll just goes one way or another depending on what degrees it's at, which works for some projects, especially when like a basic crawly little robot. You can just have that system work and have a whole bunch of gears meshed together and have like a simple crawly robot.
That's super cool. You've done so much work with gears. I find like the gears, like when I think about your work, I think about gears a lot. And I don't know whether that's because I saw a lot of your early work that had a lot of gears, but also a lot of the components you use involve gears and so on. What like is it you're just attracted by the aesthetic of gears, or what attracts you? Because it's your hero component, right? Gears, servos, things that integrate with each other, you know, things that kind of that mechanical engineering side of things. Like, why was your first component a servo? What is it about the gear thing that it fascinates you?
The thing about steampunk was one of my first thing. Like that was my first genre into making. So I figured out that I could make this happen. And the thing I love about steampunk compared to cyberpunk, not hating on cyberpunk or any of the other punks, because I know there's like gas punk now and space punk and all these other different punks, which I'm here for.
Solar
punk, definitely a good one.
Love that one.
I'm more of a fan of steampunk because I love the fusion of scientific mechanical movement and artistry. So it's just pretty to watch and look. And a lot of steampunk stories compared to cyberpunk stories are way more positive about creation. Like you're always pushed into like some weird 19th century, you know, renaissance of technology, and like everybody's an inventor, everyone's making this stuff. Like you go outside and there's all these weird mechanisms and everyone's like just happy to be there and seeing all this cool stuff, compared to like cyberpunk stories where just like AI has gone rogue and now human society doesn't like each other, so now we have fake robot people who like each other better than us, and now, you know, a whole bunch of LEDs.
Funny.
So it's like that positive mindset of steampunk is what really drove my younger self to keep working with steampunk material, and which actually helped me get into mechanisms a lot better.
Where do you find the cyberpunk material? I mean, to give you a little bit of context, the last couple of artists I had a conversation with on this stream, I was asking about their inspirations. The first person I spoke to this afternoon was Sophie Wong, who, of course, you know.
I love Sophie.
Yeah, we all love Sophie. But Sophie spoke a lot about how science fiction has basically really formed her aesthetic and technology that she creates. And she she spoke about a few of the different works that she finds most inspiring over the years. She keeps coming back to and coming back to, and that would be interesting. But then, like earlier when we were speaking, you said that you don't tend to keep books that aren't that are non-fiction on your shelf. You said they're art books, they're
science books.
So I was wondering, where, if you don't read the books, like where is it that you're getting your aesthetic inspiration from? Like in terms of steampunk, is it like other, like art sharing communities?
I do multiple. I find inspiration in multiple things. I do a lot of streaming because COVID happened, and then everyone hopped on that. So I watch a whole bunch of stuff, but like I definitely do audiobooks, which I'm a big fan of because I'm always working on something. So my main problem when it comes to watching new things or reading books, especially, is my focus problem. So like I've been trying to watch this Disney movie Luca for like the last 2 days, and I have gone through the movie twice. I've gone through both the movie twice and couldn't get through it because I kept stopping and working on something else. And then by the time I pay back attention to the screen, I missed so much, but I'm just like, all right, whatever. I'm gonna keep going. Audiobooks work better for me because I can just plug them in my ears and then just work on stuff and still pay attention too. Like I have moments where I'm really into it and I'll freeze. And I call it my freeze zone because like some of my friends have seen this happen to me where I'll be doing something or working on something and then I'll just kind of like sit there frozen because I'm so enthralled into the story before getting back to work. So I listen to a whole bunch of different audiobooks. I have Audible. I go through a whole bunch of stuff like that. I still do comic books. I do them all digitally and stuff. I have Pinterest as a big inspiration. I go through many sci-fi tropes and many different sci-fi movies. I look for all these type of things. I'm always here for it.
Very interesting. That was super interesting. There's another question I wanted to ask you as well about your wearables. Which was so I see lots of people working with wearables and I see lots of people working with robotics, right? But there are only a small number of people who are working with wearables and robotics, like wearable robotics. So what I wanted to ask you is, what I wanted to ask you here was, what do you think being wearable brings to a robot? Like, why are you putting your robots on you, Jay?
Friends, don't judge my child.
I'm not criticizing it. I love it. But like, what is it that you think like a wearable robot brings that just a table-based robot doesn't?
Well, like when I first got into wearable robots, I got it because and robotics in general was because like I said, kind of weird, trauma, whatever. I was a lonely kid in college. Like I worked full time and I did school full time, so I didn't have much of a chance to actually, make friends. So I decided to build a friend, quite literally build a friend. So I got into robotics. And the thing about wearable robotics that like instantly sparked my like imagination and started me wearing them and doing this is because I don't feel so like alone when I'm going places. Like I can have a robot on my shoulder, which instantly makes me feel a little bit more comfortable. And it gets people's attention or gets them weirded out. It kind of works. Either way, I'm there.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a fun way of standing out and me feeling a little bit more comfortable with bringing a friend with me. And I'm still working to make my robots a bit better. That's why I'm working with AI. I'm working on trying to get like some speech together and stuff too, that way they can become more responsive and actually like, chat with me and stuff like that. But more of at least for me, and I hope the future of wearable robotics can become this one day, I would like it to be a way for people who for some reason are isolated and stuff like that can have a virtual friend or a robotic friend to actually, be there and talk to. And yeah.
Really amazing. So we've spoken a little bit about the kind of tools that you like to use, your Dremel, your 3D printer. But I was wondering as well, so you do tend to work with quite a lot of different materials in your work, right? But the majority of it is 3D printed. What draws you to 3D printing? Is it just the practicality of it, or do you like the kind of material? Like, what kind of like materials do you work with within that 3D printing? Is it like if you experimented with like any unusual type of filaments?
I've used flexible filaments for some things and stuff like that. Other than that, I work with PLA mostly. It usually depends on what I'm doing. A good example is a while ago, I was working on this like flexible part for one of my robots, and I couldn't use PLA because PLA was just too thick. So I used a flexible filament to be able to have like a bendy looking like neck thing for one of my previous experiments. I do a lot of extra work on the side that I never show anyone. Like I'm literally working on something constantly. But those are my two things, and the reason I got drawn to those two things originally was because of the movie Big Hero 6.
The Pixar movie. Pixar?
Yeah, it was Disney. No, that was Disney.
No.
That was actually a Disney film. Yeah.
Okay.
When I watched that film, that huge scene of like him making the armor for Baymax just instantly blew my mind. I was like, that's it, 3D printing. That's how I can solve that problem. Because originally I was leaning towards learning how to sew. That way I can like make plushy bodies for my robots. But I didn't like it, and sewing takes so long, and my patience for it is so bad. I can do small sewing bits now, but if you tell me to sew a plushie right now, I will look at you like you're crazy and be like, I don't have the patience for that. I'm sorry.
Alana asked, what's the name of the movie? Which was
Big Hero 6.
Big Hero 6.
Yes.
HERO number 6.
Uh-huh.
I'm told that the people in Shenzhen kind of really like that movie as well.
It's a really great movie. I personally love
it. Kind of like there's some like cultural identification with that like yeah.
Well, the thing about that too is because as a person of robotics, the one thing I get constantly, especially with one of my main robots being a spider bot, is a lot of people have negative views of robotics in general. So as soon as they see my spider robot, they usually think Terminator, world destroying AI, something.
Yeah, it's true.
Fear-mongering type of thing. And then Big Hero 6 came out with the robot Baymax, which is one of my favorite robots in sci-fi. Actually, the favorite robot.
I was going to say, what's your favorite robot?
Yeah, it's Baymax, 100% Baymax.
Yeah.
It's a giant nurse. It's
true.
And it's one of the few robots that I've seen that actually in TV that actually gets the AI correct. Because most people, when they see AI, they assume that the robot is mimicking being human, when that's not how AI works. And in Big Hero 6, Baymax is literally just following his programming. And it makes sense. Like all the things he does is like exactly how you imagine programming would work. And he's just programming to be a nurse. He's just here to help you. That's his whole thing. And I love it. Like that's something that I would like to be able to be a part of or build one day. It's just like a giant lovable nurse robot, maybe.
Yeah. So do you have any immediate plans, things that you're going to be working on in the next couple of weeks?
Yeah, I have a few actually. Currently I'm working to build a droid robot that'll be like rolling around. Probably doing some interesting skills, which I'll keep a little secret. I have the Helen project coming up.
Which one?
The Helen project, which I named after you. Yes.
Oh,
you have a robot named after you. That's coming up soon. I need to start working on it. I started working on it before, but I had to shelve it. But
what's that using?
It's using an open MV camera with the wide lens. So
that's pretty cool.
It's going to be a new type of wearable that I have really never tried designing before. I don't want to get into big hints because I don't want to give any too big.
Okay. We won't give anything away, but we'll make sure we can. We'll keep an eye on your feed.
Yeah, those are my two next big projects, and of course J-Max, which is over here. He just needs his plushy body and stuff, and he'll be up and running.
What's the body? Are you going to sew it, or are you going to be working with somebody else?
One of my friends sold the body already, and I have it.
Oh, nice.
I have been working on the battery placement because I have to decide where I want the battery to be in the body. Mm-hmm. And then after that, hopefully by next weekend, I will be able to go out and give it a field test and see how people react to it. And this is the first time I'm actually using like a plushy body for it and actually using like stuffing and stuff like that. So should be interesting. I'm hoping it works well. I'm really hoping it's comfy. That's my main thing for this, is I want it to be very comfy as I wear it. Aussie V10 is the first wearable robot I have that I can wear on my shoulder without having a setup or like a strap or anything. He just fits on me really nice and comfy. And I want to continue this level of comfiness with my future robots. So I'm trying to find other ways to make them a lot more like just comfortable wearing.
Yeah. And I'd say like a lot of your work that I've seen has been pretty much quite individual. So you tend to work largely, correct me if I'm wrong, tend to work largely on your own as opposed to like big collaborations. But it's really interesting to hear that your new robot you'll be collaborating, or you're the new iteration of that robot will be collaborating with somebody else who's got their fabric skills.
Yeah, I have friends who are cosplayers, so like that helps a lot.
Yeah, right. I mean, and I think like a lot of the most interesting like makes out there are often people who've like mashed up their skills together and created something entirely new and exciting. Yeah. So I'm very excited to see what you do in a collaboration with a cosplayer.
Yeah, like with the open MV code, I got help from Sean from DigiGate.
Oh, we love Sean.
Sean's amazing.
Sean.
Great dancer, by the way. If we ever get a chance to like, you know, if we have to do a dance battle with him, last SuperCon, dude has some moves, and I was surprised. I was like,
okay, that's not what I was expecting.
Yeah, definitely not. It was very surprising. It was like watching Doctor Who suddenly know how to break dance. What's happening?
I love it. I love it.
But yeah, like, I'm hoping to.
We are somehow at the 1 hour mark. We've been chatting for absolutely ages, and there's been so many amazing things that we've talked about. We've heard from you about all of your different robots, about your approach to wearables, and about your approach to troubleshooting and failure as well, which has been super insightful. So thank you so much for sharing all of your learning with us.
No problem.
Before we head off, is there any, like, where can people find you? Are there any things that you're looking for support on at the moment? For example, I know that you've got a Patreon.
Yeah, I have a Patreon. I'm very bad for asking for like help with these things. I don't know. Like,
That's why.
Let's for me on Patreon. All my links are set on my Twitter. Best to follow me on my Twitter or Instagram, or my top two.
Yeah.
I just got into TikTok. I just got a whole bunch of followers on TikTok, but TikTok may be where I start making some of my other adventure videos, because soon I hopefully will be able to take these type of inventions and stuff out and about and get people's reactions, because human reactions are fun.
Absolutely.
So
Jay on all of those platforms.
Yes, okay. Because I'm weird that way.
Yeah, we love it. We love it. We love your weirdness. Everybody loves it. The internet loves your weirdness, Jay. All right. It's been over an hour, and we're going to leave, but this has been an absolutely delightful experience. Thank you so much for joining us, Jay.
Thank you.
Thank you for all your expertise. And this will be the last one for today, but there will be a couple more talks tomorrow on this stream. So do join us for some more interesting people and hackers doing cool things. All right. Good night, everybody. See you soon.
Bye.
Bye.